Couldn't we make it just like we want it, just like we need it? Why can't we just like a who says we can't, who says we can't, who says we shouldn't, who says we couldn't make it just like we love it? Why can't we just like a couldn't we make it just like we want it, just like we need it?
Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the new Wool Gathering Collective podcast. My name is Meredith, and today I'm recording in Bathurst, New Brunswick from a cottage that belongs to the family of a friend of mine. And it's a lovely afternoon. It has been lovely. A thunderstorm just rolled in, and there was lightning, and the rain was amazing over the water. And now you might be able to hear the rain outside. So I just wanted to catch up with you because it's been April 27th, I believe, was when we recorded the last podcast. So it's definitely been a long while since we've got to hang out. Lots been going on. So we did lose my grandmother in May. We had a wonderful funeral and burial for her. And then a few weeks after that, my dad and I took off for New York City. He was attending the 2016 World Philatelist Convention at the Jabotis Center, and that's essentially stamp collecting. He's a stamp collector. And a lot of people kind of gave me some flack for going to something like that, but it was amazing. It was really educational. It was fun. It was cool to see all the history, and John Lennon, his childhood stamp collection was there. So if John Lennon does it, it can't be that lame. Anyhow, I want to first of all thank you for being patient in between episodes, and I want to address something fairly obvious right off today, and that's Natasha. So she has decided to take a little step back from the podcast. She has a lot going on in her personal life. Nothing bad has happened or anything like that. But she just doesn't feel that she would have the available time to commit to the podcast going forward. So I'm going to miss her. I'm going to miss the chemistry that we've had together and the cookies and all of the just the fun we had doing this and building this together. She's half of this podcast, and she's definitely going to be missed. So what I hope to do is continue on with the wonderful community of Woolies that has gathered around this effort of ours, and to, make it more my own, to distinguish myself a little bit as a solo podcaster. It's a different dynamic. It's different overall. So I'm just going to see how that goes. Hopefully people will still want to watch, and even with Natasha not here. So let's jump right in to a works in progress. I finished a test knit for Kemper Wray, who is junk yarn. It's called the Color Field Shawl. And my colors are purple and yellow. And it's Knit and Madeline Tosh DK is what I chose. It's something a little bit different for me in terms of the colors. And I'm going to have a picture up on Ravelry soon, I promise. I'm not going to show you until I have my picture up, just for sake of the test knit. So, sorry guys. The second thing that I'm going to call it a work in progress because I'm going to wind this yarn tonight, like right now after I finish here. It is called the Talisman, Talisman Shawl, and it's the first shawl in It's called The Secret Shawl Society, and it's by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade podcast. So I'm gonna wind this up tonight. It's handmaiden sea silk, 70% silk, 30% sea cell. And I don't know what the colorway is. Other than pretty. That's pretty. If you want to see what that shawl looks like, you can look it up on Ravelry. It's like I said, it's a secret shawl society. And so you sign up for 6 months. Every month you get a new shawl, and you don't know what they are going to be until they're released. So I'm looking forward to that. So those are my active works in progress, because active is different than just general works in progress. I finished some things. I've kind of got like finish it up-itis right now, so I'll show you some of those. The first thing is actually not even knitting related. It's cross stitch, and it is a pattern that was created by Alicia Paulson, and I had followed her blog for many years and loved her patterns and whatnot, but a lot of them were either crochet or sewing. And then a few years ago I bought one of her Christmas kits and didn't make it, and then this came out and I bought the kit and I made it right away. So isn't it sweet? It's called like Spring Sheep or something like that. So it's adorable. It was fun to make. And fairly quickly, her directions were great. And the materials were lovely as well. So that's complete. I'm going to talk more about Alicia Paulson in a minute. The second finished object I'm very excited about. These are these socks are, they're knit in the Knitley Road or KR sock base in the Kaleidoscope colorway. They're speckly a bit, not wild speckles. Anyhow, this is a pattern that Stephanie from Knitley Road and I collaborated on, and there are two versions. One is published and one is upcoming. Okay, so this is my version, the M socks. The version that is published are the S socks. So you can guess what the S stands for and what the M might stand for. The S socks were knit, they're going to look the same, essentially. Let me back up. So, like I said, it's one pattern, essentially. It's the same stitch pattern, same sock, but written in two ways. So, the S version, toe up, fleagle heel, and then, the regular leg. That's already been published. It's available on Etsy. It's called the S sock by Knitley Road. The M version, which is what these are knit, was top down, afterthought heel, voila. I've worn them once. The yarn is super nice to work with. I almost feel like there's mohair in it, even though there's not, but it's got that nice sturdy sheen to it. So I'm very pleased with how these turned out. And the top down afterthought heel version will be released ASAP. So I just told you about Alicia Paulson and her wonderful designs, and I'm going to make some noise. So I received the Making magazine, in the mail. I didn't make a pre-order. I should have. But this came Friday, yesterday. So here's Matter. And this cute little guy. I would say he's probably for coloring or just enjoying. It says thank you on the back. And, oh, I'm sure that I'm probably the last person to get on board with this magazine. It's just, well, I thought when it first came out, oh, I don't need another, it's not a magazine, it's a book. I don't need another book. But then I saw my friend's copy and I was hooked. I needed one in my life. I was watching Susan B. Anderson's latest podcast, and she talked about these guys and girls that she created for the issue. Flowery Fairy and Leaf Sprite. Anyway, the point is, it's a wonderful publication. Recipes, different types of craft tutorials, photos are lovely as always. There's sewing, there's printmaking, there's recipes, there's embroidery, there's knitting, and needle felting. What I'm trying to show you, here it is. It's another embroidery pattern by Alicia Paulson. And it's really nice. I actually picked up some embroidery thread this weekend. So I almost said I might cast it on, but I might start this project. This is the Making book, #1, and its theme is Flora. I would highly recommend getting it or borrowing it or telling your local library that it should get it in. Really sweet patterns. And if you want to find out more about this, you can go to the website, which is makingzine.com. Right here. So I think it's lovely and it's wonderful. And again, Matter is the woman who published it, Carrie Bostick Hodge, I think is how you say her name. Just I feel like everything she touches has such thought and care put into it. So, all right, I have a new section to introduce you to. It's called Out and About, and it's going to focus on my out and about activities in my area, my local fiber activities, as well as, ones that have piqued my interest around the world. So the first one I want to share with you has already happened. Like I said, my dad and I went to New York City, and while I was there happened to be a meetup for the Brooklyn Knitters group, I guess. Jacqueline of Brooklyn Kinfolk Podcasts organized this meetup. And it was kind of confusing because we met at a coffee shop called Brooklyn Roasters, I think, or Brooklyn Roasting Co. But it was in Manhattan. So anyhow, there were probably about 16 people who came to this meetup, and several podcasters, several people who, aren't crazy enough to podcast. And then another, I guess, notable name was Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade Audio Podcast. She was there with her friends Bowen and Stewart, and they were in town in advance of Squam. So it was really lovely to meet all of them. We sat and knit for probably 3 hours, 4 hours. And then a few of us, Sarah, Jenny, Bowen, Stewart, Helen, and myself, we went off and we went to Purl Soho again. and we had lunch at a chutney place, an Indian chutney place, and then we parted ways. And it was really cool to meet Helen in person, as well as everybody else, of course. I feel like I've made some true friends. But I had never watched Helen's or listened to Helen's podcast before, so I was kind of going in blind. But she's like, I've listened to some since, and she's just as lovely in person as she is when you listen to her. So she's a genuine soul. That was fabulous. I really, like I said, I feel like I made some true friends, and hopefully I'll get to see them again at fiber festivals in the future. There is a girl that I am familiar with in Fredericton. Her name is Anna, and her company is called Ploome Fiber Arts. Here's her flyer. And she is out in Nashua, Durham Bridge, Nashua Bridge area. A really lovely area of the province. And she's doing several workshops: drop spindling basics, natural dyeing, fabulous felted 3D vessels, fancy felted fingerless gloves, woven wall hanging, and rigid heddle loom basics. So those are the classes she's offering all the way up in until September. So if you're in this area, or you feel like maybe coming to this area of the country or the province, definitely check out Anna. Her website is Ploome, Ploome, fiberarts.com. And she's Fiber Artist on Instagram. There's a new shop in Fredericton, and I'm very excited about it. It's called Modern General, and I've been there twice so far. I've got my head wrap from there, and it's just a cool shop. It's the kind of things that I would want to buy. They have the bento bags, the ones that are sold at Fringe Supply Co. Cool things like this. They have kombucha brew kits. They have a weaving kit, like for a wall hanging. They have, pottery. Here's a mug. This one isn't mine, but cute. I got this pouch there. Just really lovely. It's a well-curated shop. A lot of it's made in Canada. And she's on Instagram as Modern General. Have you been reading along with the Engage Book Club? Right now, we are nearing the end of The Devil in the White City. And so far, 2 sets of questions have been loaded to the Ravelry group in the Engage Book Club thread. A new question will be added tomorrow or the next day, Monday, the 27th. Some people love it, some people really dislike it, or they like parts and can't connect to other parts. I personally kept falling asleep when I was reading it, so I downloaded the audiobook from Audible, and it's been the cincher for me. I've really enjoyed making my way through the book. Parts that have to do with H.H. Holmes are a bit disturbing, and it kind of disgusts me, honestly. Well, I mean, he was a serial murderer, so it's good that it bothers me, I guess. But I really enjoy the bits that have to do with the building of the Chicago World Fair. In my non-knitting life, I'm a project manager, and just the budget and time constraints that they dealt with are just beyond me. I just love it. It's great. And it's so cool to go and look at photos from that time period and from the World's Fair, because you don't really realize it. Well, I mean, things are being invented all the time, but at this point in history, at this fair, so many things were brought forward. And there are things that like Kellogg's, Walt Disney, his dad worked there at the World's Fair as a construction worker. The Ferris wheel was created at that time for the World's Fair. Tesla introduced, I think, the alternating current stuff. It was a really cool period in the history of the States, and I'm really enjoying it. So if you're not familiar with the Engage Book Club, Stephanie from the Milkshed podcast and we kind of co-host it together. So the next book we read will be hosted on her group on Ravelry, which is Milkshed Podcast. And we're taking suggestions for the next book, actually. So if you like books, if you have read a good book or want to read a good book, please seek out that thread in the Wool Gathering group. There's just a few more things I want to talk about. The first is the Canada Cal, the 2016 Canada Cal. And it is, oh my goodness, I just had their names in my head and I forgot. It's being hosted by Two Tangled Skeins podcast. And it's essentially a Canadian free-for-all. If you have a project you want to make out of yarn that has been made in Canada, dyed in Canada, if the pattern has been designed by a Canadian, if it's named after something in Canada, if it has a Canadian theme, then it qualifies for this knit along. It runs the whole month, and I'm hoping to have some cool prizes for those who share their finished objects in my group, the group. So there's definitely more information about the rules and whatnot, both in the Wool Gathering group and in a few others as well. So I'll link to that here and in the show notes. There's going to be, Canada Post is going to strike. And I don't really know much about why. It's a union thing, really. But I'm scared that it's going to impact a couple mini skein swaps that I'm getting ready and a couple other parcels I'm getting ready to send. And heaven forbid you order yarn and it doesn't come because of the Canada Post strike. So if you are ordering yarn from a Canadian retailer or an Etsy shop, or you want to send something to somebody in Canada, I would encourage you to reach out to them first just to see what the state is in terms of this postal strike, because we gotta have our yarn. Us knitters gotta knit. The last thing I want to talk about today is a new addition to my household. It's a cat. And I never thought I would say I had a cat, but I do. His name is Roman, Roman. I know it's very similar to Rowan, the yarn, but it's not. Roman. And TJ and I rescued him from an organization called Karma Cat Rescue. And he's just the sweetest, well, I want to say sweetest little thing, but he's not little. He's 14 pounds. And I haven't gotten really very many great videos of him, but I'm going to add some photos because he just stole my heart and TJ's heart. And I want you to meet him as well. Well, oh, did I tell you that I'm away this weekend? I think I did at the beginning, but I'm in Bathurst, New Brunswick, or Bathurst, New Brunswick, if you're Francophone. Well, that's kind of a bad representation of how a Francophone would say it, so I apologize, but I'm here with a friend, and we came up last night. We got here about 10:30, 11. She has 3 dogs, so we walked them on the beach. We went out on the sandbars. I have some video of that. I collected some shells. We're just knitting. We're going to do some natural dyeing with avocado pits tonight and tomorrow. It's just a time to relax and rejuvenate and reflect. I've been doing a lot of reflecting about the podcast and, what being true to myself and projecting that forward into a podcast that is appealing to you and that is a quality production and something I can be proud of. So I hope to check in again soon within the next 2 weeks. And I have missed the interaction with all of you. So please know that I was thinking of you the last few weeks, several weeks, and just thank you for watching and thank you for the support and for asking, if I'm still podcasting and whatnot. So you guys are great. So I'm going to go wind up this yarn, start my new shawl, and we're going to have some supper and do some dyeing probably and just relax. So have a great week ahead and, keep stitching. Bye.
Couldn't we make it just like we want it, just like we need it? Why can't we just like who says we can't? Who says we can't? Who says we shouldn't? Who says we couldn't make it just like we